Thank you, Madam Speaker. Now, the interesting thing about this bill is these are not races, these are demographic areas. So, and the reason for presenting a bill like this, I know nominally it's about increasing the opportunity, availability of opportunity. I'm not really sure how that works, because what it's actually doing is the reason I would anticipate this would be the creation of a metric, because a metric is something that you measure, and now you have a measurement of certain demographic locations, that people. So this violates the e pluribus unum concept in its entirety. And when you have that, and say, we talked about this yesterday, and the interesting thing was that when the sponsor said not being able to check Caucasian, which is really kind of funny because these three areas are very Caucasus proximate. These are much more proximate to the Caucasus Mountains than, I don't know, say any place like Europe. So not being represented by descendants from the Caucasus Mountains is a little bit odd, because that's the location. And the other part of it that I notice is that these are not about races. When you look at the demographics, my slightly less brown colleague over here mentioned the other day that he is represented as white, and I'm represented as white. So, and we come, our family, our origins, Mexico, Europe. Now, the Netherlands at one point, I just recently learned, was a Spanish colony at one point, so the colonizers there, but that's not important, Madam Speaker. So what we're doing is we're adding a metric, and when you add a metric, it's for the purpose of measurement, and the purpose of measurement in this case is the purpose of priority, which according to the Constitution, for an ethnic group or a race would be unconstitutional. So I'm not really sure why these three Caucasus proximate locations need to be delineated from being seen. These three need to be seen. And when I looked up, and AI is a wonderful tool, when I looked up some sort of equivalent globally, because if these are races, what are the other races? Because normally races are, white, black, Asian, all kinds of nonsense that's made up for phenotype. So if you don't know by now, I don't believe that there are races other than the human race and maybe the Daytona 500. But, so because if we're looking at making sure that races or demographic locations are seen, I think we actually need to make sure that they are seen. So, Madam Speaker, I request permission to move a third reading amendment.
That is a proper motion. Please briefly explain.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, the purpose of this bill is to make sure that everybody is seen, that everybody is represented. And so I tried to, on behalf of the sponsor, to include a broader representation of who would be seen. And using the template that was provided by the sponsor, expanded that to make sure that the individuals would be seen. And so what this does, Madam Speaker.
We'll wait to explain the amendment. I appreciate your explanation of permission.
So the permission is to add one of the major ethnic groups to include Aboriginal Australians, Atavis, African Americans, Afro-Brazilians, African Canadians, Afro-Colombians, Afro-Mexicans, Akan, Alawites, Amra, Arabs, Armenians.
Thank you, Rep. DeGraff. I'll wrap up. You can go further through the amendment should we get through permission.
Madam Speaker, these are people that are not being seen.
I understand that, Representative. The motion before us is permission to offer the third reading amendment. There will be opportunity to speak to the amendment should this motion pass. But I appreciate your explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Zokai.